Hey, pal.
Honest, Jane.
You're damn right this is from the movie.
It
Yeah.
is?
Hell yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
Tom.
little son of a bitch.
How you doing, man?
I did my hair up nice for you.
You look great, man.
Very good.
I didn't take a shower, so I just wear a hat.
Well, something never changed.
Welcome to another edition of Like We Never Left, the show on SNY where we bring back your favorite New York sports personalities virtually. This is the 20th anniversary of the movie 61 with an asterisk from HBO, and it also coincides with what is now the 60th anniversary of the magical 1961 season, the story that it tells, where Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle, two New York Yankees superstars, raced to break Babe Ruth's home run record of 60 home runs. The men who brought this story to life are HBO executive producer and executive producer of the film, Ross Greenburg, director of the movie, Billy Crystal, and the men who played the stars of the Yankees and were certainly the stars of this movie. Mickey Mantle was portrayed by Thomas Jane, and Roger Maris portrayed by Barry Pepper. When you think about the making of this film, what's the first memory or good vibe that pops into your head?
Getting a treatment plunked on my desk by the then head of HBO Films, Colin Callender, and he plunked this 10-page treatment from Hank Steinberg on my desk and said, "Read this, I want to know what you think about it." So it didn't take me long to read it. As soon as I finished reading it, I called Billy and I said, "Billy, I got something here you may want to do with me."
I was, fortunate to have become a very close friend of Mickey's. And so he had told me a lot of stories about Roger and he living together that the public didn't really know. Because it wasn't just about baseball. It was about these two guys, teammates, who become rivals, who become friends. And it was a lot about chasing that ghost. And it was, all right, so if we're going to make it, where do you make Yankee Stadium? Because the stadium didn't look like Yankee Stadium anymore. So Ross and I, right before Thanksgiving, on a freezing cold day, fly to Detroit, and the ballpark was empty. The Tigers had left to go to Comerica Park, so they abandoned the stadium. So we walked into the clubhouse where Roger and Mickey were, in the visiting clubhouse, just having an amazing time in this great, really old stadium.
The urinals where of course,
That's right. That's right.
Right. The same places where the greats took a leak there. I remember that.
Right before the dugout was this big urinal where Ruth and Gehrig and everybody had done that. Thanks for the color, Tom. But the light was coming through the porticos and through the bleachers, and I started lining up shots. I said, "Oh, we could be here, we could be there," and I said to him, "I'm going to direct the movie."
I remember when Yogi Berra came out and Whitey, and the first they looked around, and the first thing Yogi Berra, I hit one out over there, I hit one out over there, I hit one out, and that's how much he bought that was Yankee Stadium.
But prior to that, you got to find who's going to be these guys. I had seen Tom in what was that shark movie, Tom?
That's right, the shark movie. There's been a lot of them.
Blue Water.
What
was
it? Deep sea.
Yeah, right. But he had this swagger, and I saw him in Boogie Nights, and he had this thing about him. So I was shooting Analyze This down in Florida, and it was a day that Saving Private Ryan opened, which I really wanted to see because I was a big Spielberg fan, and my uncle had been at D-Day. Mm-hmm. So I go and I watch, and then Roger Maris walks the earth. There's Barry. And I went, oh my God. And, not only the physical resemblance, but how great he was, how strong he was. And so we pursued both of them. And, without them, there's no 61 movie.
I remember when we first met, Billy says, "Turn around." So I took my back to Billy, and then he goes, "Cock your head a little bit." And he goes, "Yep. There he is." and then Billy said, "Do you play baseball?"
Yeah. He lied.
He lied big time. We go out to the great Reggie Smith was going to be our technical advisor because he was a great outfielder, a switch hitter, played against both Roger and Mickey. And Tom meets Reggie, and the first thing Tom says is, "How do you hold the ball?" And I went, You mother.
Right.
And then
You know what?
he couldn't
Tom,
throw, he
I
couldn't
remember-
swing. And Reggie said to me, don't call me. I'll keep in touch with you and then come back in 2 weeks. So now I come back in 2 weeks and I don't see Tom. There's this kid out in the outfield shagging flies, and Reggie whistles. He goes, "Hey, Mickey, come on in." And then Tom comes running in with a little bit of a limp. He's throwing, he's catching, and he says to me, "Hey there, you little son of a bitch," which is what Mickey called me. And then with a stickball bat, like a broom handle, he gets on a balance beam and he does mantle swings from both sides of the plate. Then took some live BP, and in 2 weeks, we had our Mickey for the movie.
The first thing Reggie said was, "The good news is you got no bad habits."
Yeah.
No idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
So he could build me from the ground up, and it changed my life, just the physicality and the passion with which Reggie taught his craft.
He taught you guys the exact swinging motion of both guys.
Right.
It wasn't just he taught you how to swing a bat.
That's
He had Thomas crouching, as he took the swing, just like Mickey using his legs.
You're in character and you both looked so much like the people you were portraying, and you got to meet their families. You got to meet their wives. Do you remember the impression that you made walking up in full uniform to Marilyn Mantle and Pat Maris and seeing the reactions?
The guys are out there with their backs to us, the way they were doing interviews, and you see the 7 and 9. And the shock of Tom's blonde hair and the number 7 on the back, and he's got his head down. He's just interviewing, but the guys were so physically right. And Merlin took one look out there and went, "Oh my God." And then I called them in, and they all met for the first time, and they almost didn't know what to say. And it was the same the first time that Barry met the family, the Maris boys. Tell them what that was like.
That was really interesting, Bill, because you had sort of primed me that it might be difficult because they were a little bit nervous about our production, and that I may or may not get a chance to speak with them or meet with them, and I was worried about that because we so wanted to please them. I mean, I'm sure Tom felt the same way. We understood what it might be like to see someone portray our fathers and how it would be like so difficult to sort of believe it or be worried that they might not handle it properly.
Right.
And then when we did meet them, it was such a blessing because they were so gracious. And I always, in fact, I wanted to ask Roger Jr. Later, what it was like seeing someone, portray his father, whether he really bought it or whether he felt like it was just, he was grateful that we didn't botch it up, Like,
can I give you one story? So at the end of it all, we were going to screen it. And so Billy was in LA and I went to Gainesville to screen the movie for not only the entire Maris family, but inclusive of Roger's mother. I was scared to death. Even though we knew it was a great movie, I was scared to death. And so at the end of the movie, they're all crying, all of them. And the mother looks at me, points, and goes, "Now that was my son."
There are a couple of scenes in the movie where it's just you guys, so it's not like there was a historical record. It was just you two there talking. And the one that's really stuck out to me was the fight you guys had. Everything had kind of been building, and you could really feel the emotion of everybody in there. And Tom, you had kind of a weird role here because you didn't get to play the hero mantle. You got to play kind of the broken mantle throughout most of this.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him broken, but he was dealing with the way he dealt with his life was very different, than Barry. I mean, I fell in love with the guy, hanging out with his son. We just had a great time. We kind of fell into this thing that was strange because they kind of started treating me like their dad. And they kind of started, you could see the little kids in them and how you could see how much they loved their old man.
I remember that day, Sweeney. That was a brutal day on set for me. Yeah. Again, I was a real hothead actor. Like I took things so deeply, at the time, I didn't know there was another way to act. I thought, you just had to take it.
Pain in the ass, Mike.
I was a pain in the ass. And I remember that day, we just weren't able to figure the scene out, and I was sort of making suggestions, and Tom was like, I thought I was playing Mickey Mantle, and and we were kind of at loggerheads, but that scene came out of that fire.
We're pleased now to be joined by a member of Roger Maris's family. One of his sons, Kevin Maris, joins us. What was it like watching that story unfold on screen with these two guys looking the way they did and acting the way they did?
Well, it was pretty amazing. You hear all the stories, growing up that, how Dad played, and you run across his buddies, and, they tell you how good he was and how things transpired over the years. And, for Billy and Ross and everybody, Barry and Thomas Jane, put things together and pull it off so fantastic. Things were written up so different back in the day when Dad was really going through it. And for Billy to really bring it to life and, show the friendship that Mickey and Dad really had was kind of refreshing for us as a family, because it wasn't that way when you read the papers. And when they saw the movie, they're just like amazed that they really were that good of friends.
They lived together?
They really were.
Yeah.
They really were.
So much of the story is built on who the fans were rooting for. They were rooting for Mickey. They weren't rooting for Roger. But at that point in time, we didn't know all the details of Mickey's life off the field. We didn't know about the womanizing and the type of person he was. And we also didn't know the type of family man Roger was. And I kind of feel like if we had known all the details of both of their lives, I wonder if the roles would have been reversed and people would have rooted for that decent man, Roger Maris, more than they rooted for Mickey Mantle.
It's hard to say, Sweeney. I mean, it was there's no social media. A lot of the press did know about what Mickey was doing, but kept it to themselves.
Mickey had a lot of charisma in front of the camera. He really kind of enjoyed it, played to it. Roger, on the other hand, was a little shyer in front of the camera, and I think that's also why the fans loved him so much. I mean, he had such a big engine behind him in terms of the songs about him and what he had done for the Yankees all those years. So I think it would have been, I don't know that it would have been completely flipped.
Kevin, you probably heard these stories, but it was like, I just want to play baseball. I don't really want to have to deal with the press and deal with all the other stuff that goes along with it.
There's a wonderful moment where Roger is getting he's being applauded by his own teammates in the clubhouse, and there's still a little bit of time left to get to the record. But Mickey Mantle is sitting in the corner of the clubhouse and staring at Roger with just sadness that spoke to so much about the potential that Mickey had in all these years of his career and the pain that he played with and the pain in his heart and everything. And he's staring across the room and all of it comes out in just a few seconds as you fade to black and white in that shot. It was a really emotional shot in that movie.
He wanted to be the guy. And those kind of seasons don't happen back to back, more than likely.
And they knew it.
And he knew, he was now 30, but he was an old 30 already,
right.
And had a magnificent season, but he knew he wasn't going to be there. So you don't have to tell Tom much more than that. Getting
in touch with the spirit of the game and the fact that it's a game,
Yeah.
And people dedicate their life, and yet it's so much more than a game, and it's will always probably remain my favorite shoot.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. There was a great coda for it, Sweeney. We get invited to the White House. President Bush, who was once an owner of the Texas Rangers, a big baseball fan, invites us to screen the movie in the White House screening room. I've been in so many other private screening rooms that are actually better.
Better in the White House.
The White House, and the sound didn't sync up in the beginning, and I was going,
"Oh God!"
And I'm sitting right next to the president, and he puts his cowboy boots up on a hammock with a GWB on it, and so it's definitely an away game for me. And I'm sitting on his right. So the movie opens, and there's about 3 or 4 really dirty jokes that Mantle says in the beginning of the movie. And I whispered to the president, I said, there's only 2 more of those. And he goes, bring them on. So now we're deep into the movie, and we're in Detroit, and Roger hits his 53rd home run, I think it is. And it's off of Frank Larry, who was a Yankee killer and a right-handed pitcher. So the president whispers to me, no, that's wrong. I go, what do you mean? He goes, it wasn't Larry, it was Hank Aguirre. And I went, I know you're right, because the day that we shot that, the lefty who Hank Aguirre was, the kid who played him didn't show up. And all I had was the kid who played Frank Larry. And I said, all right, go out there and throw. And I was so angry, this kid just didn't show up. So it is the wrong guy. So the president knew that it wasn't the right guy for Hank Aguirre, Frank Larry, but the weapons of mass destruction he didn't see. This is what this is. So the movie ends, and the president, this is the president of the United States, Tom, you remember this? He stands up, Barry, and he says, excuse me, everybody, that's the best baseball movie I've ever seen. Tom, tell me about it, because I knew Mickey very well. And Tom stands up and goes, I'd love to tell you, but right now I got to pee like a racehorse. and someone said I could go too. So I think we all ended up, Barry, Tom, and I, and the president in the restroom in the West Wing. It was hilarious.
I really want to hear what you got to say.
I really want to hear what you got to say, but right now I got to pee like a
Billy tied this together with Mark McGwire breaking the home run record in 1998. And, you're in attendance to watch that happen. Kevin, I'm wondering, first of all, from your perspective, and any of the others want to chime in after, I'm just wondering if knowing what you know about him now has changed the perspective you had of that season in 1998.
Well, when we first met Mark, I mean, he's really a good, genuine guy deep down, I think. I think he got in a situation that was a little too tempting for him. He was right there, so close, so many times that, in life, people make decisions that they're willing to cross that line, and at the end of the day, you got to know you got to face the music at some point. We know what's out there now. He had called Mom and had asked, before he went public with his statement, he had called Mom.
Oh.
And, came clean with Mom, and really felt bad at what really took place, and he didn't have to do that.
The asterisk to me means something much more different to me now. It means like that's special. It's special because of the asterisk. That other one doesn't count.
That asterisk does mean, you're right, Barry, and it carries weight.
Should I recut the ending? And the beginning? Should we do that? Should we eliminate him? And I hate the cancel culture kind of mentality about it. And it was what it was at that time. Yeah. So I think it was that way. It's truthful.
My last question to you guys was going to be, what did you steal from the set? What are your souvenirs from the movie set? Tom, you're wearing one of them.
Yeah, I got the hat, the bat, the glove. I have my uniform in the closet.
My favorite is the wool.
I got one of my bats here that Tom signed. Tom signed it there, and Billy signed it there, and
Yogi. Is that one you used because you could see the stain of the ball on there, right?
Yeah, it's one of them. Yeah,
right.
But
it's one of them.
Billy gave the other to the Hall, so that's pretty cool.
I'm looking at two pieces of the set. One is section 33.
Oh my God.
It's about 7 feet high and 3 feet wide. That's the section in right field where Roger hit the 61st home run on that Sunday.
Oh my God.
And the thing from the clubhouse, I'm looking, is only Yankee players and members of the press admitted to the dressing rooms. The 61 uniform, the script, other artifacts, the bat that Barry used for Roger, all of that stuff is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, from a 10-page treatment to a 20th anniversary of a movie is something that we're all emotional about and proud of to be a part of.
Guys, I want to thank you for helping us commemorate the 60th anniversary of the actual events, the 20th anniversary. I said it at the beginning, and it's still true. It is one of the best baseball movies ever made. You guys are responsible for making it happen. Thanks for joining us here today. Billy Crystal, Ross Greenburg, Thomas Jane, Barry Pepper, and Kevin Maris. I'm SWEENY MURTI. Thanks for making us feel like we never left.